So let's kind of break down this game, go over kind of what happened. I mean, again, one thing that I do really like with G2 is their drafts are, even if you disregard who the better draft has, they know how to play their drafts so incredibly well that they really excel with it, and that's kind of one of the really big things that is very consistent through this game. So yesterday the Zeri was banned away from Caltis, probably going to be banned in the next game as well. They do ban the Ari away. I do think the kind of ban order was kind of off. You usually want the Milio as last ban, but going Zeri and then Lulu becomes super available. Here, what you want to be doing instead is you want to look to maybe take the Lulu away and take an ADC that can shut down the Zeri and potentially snowball a game early. Even things like the Jinx is super good. By going the Lucian Nami, you don't really have the tools. I mean, you do have some tools in the early game, but later on into the game, you don't really have any of the tools to deal with Zeri if she gets a chance to scale. And you're kind of putting yourself in a position where your ADC is going to get out-damaged later on into the game, which we did see happen and we did predict earlier. So here you open up the Lulu, which again, Lulu is an okay response to the Nami because you can just play scaling lanes and then go from there. The Ornn pick, that's because obviously when you're taking a Zeri, you're opting into I want to scale, we want to scale later on into the game. So you end up getting those ornaments later on into the game that are just really, really good. Obviously Gwen is a kind of a counter to the Ornn, but with so much magic damage in the game at the moment, it becomes very easy to itemize against most champs. Gwen is a little bit unique in the fact that a large amount of her damage profile is actually true damage, so she can still pack a massive punch later on into the game. But again, we get Cassio Vi banned away and Rek'Sai Kindred. This is just because obviously Sheena really does like these champions. Poppy comes in, which again, blind jungle, it's completely fine. And then we get the Seraphine and Nocturne come in. Now, Nocturne is just kind of a disruptor. His job is to do as much as he can early to get teams to their kind of power points. The good thing about this comp as well is Nocturne doesn't actually need to activate the second half of his R. He can use the first half of his R, and that means that they can't see the Ornn or the Seraphine ult coming down, which is actually what I think happened in that final game. But yeah, throughout, like, they played it really, really well. Now, I think this stack here is giga useless. I think there's no point in ever stacking here. You're not going to look to go in. One thing they can look to do instead here is they can actually look to you leave Lucian Nami and maybe Castin here, and then what you do is you send Gwen and Poppy in through here, get seen here, so they think that it's 5-man invade, and then what will happen is Nocturne will walk up to get this ward, and then you just jump on him here, maybe get summoners. If you're lucky, you might even get a early kill from there. So just straight up 4-man stacking, not too great. Nocturne's never going to walk up and try and fist fight with a Poppy early. It doesn't really make much sense, and it doesn't really fit what they want to do in the game whatsoever. So a little bit weird in general. Again, this Ornn getting massive amounts of pressure in top lane against a Gwen, massively important, especially considering Gwen is looking to get prio here, but she doesn't really need prio, especially when Nocturne is pathing into bot. So again, she's just doing it for the pressure, but trading that much HP for prio when you don't need it is really, really bad. It's not something that you want to look to do whatsoever. This, to be fair, though, was a really, really good gank. Poppy did 3 camps top and then came into bot side so that she could get something on the Lulu. Does manage to lock her down, and Nami Bubble does manage to knock her up as well. So this was a really good first blood. Trez played this really, really well. But the issue was that they can't really snowball as hard as they'd want to. Zeri is allowed to just stay in lane and farm. She also then gets solo XP because of that as well, which isn't the worst either. Especially considering most levels give gold in resistances, so it means that when you've got something like Zeri who's going to be building a large amount of HP throughout a build anyway, those base resistances that you get from levels are really good. So getting solo XP on a Zeri really isn't that bad, so it's okay. Nocturne coming in for a gank here doesn't really, like, there's not really much that can be done, but again, they are using prio, so this is one of the things that you do find with when you are playing things such as these comps. What you end up happening is when you've got a Kassadin here, all you really need to look to do into the Kassadin is you and you get Prio, force him under his tower here with the Seraphine. And what happened in this situation is the Nocturne came down to get Prio here as well, and then they just all collapsed on the dragon and started playing towards this win condition. But like we said during the actual game, one of the things that you end up with from this is every dragon that you get on the side of G2 for a Zeri is going to give you additional scaling time before the Elder actually spawns. So this becomes really good because it just gives them time to get to those power spikes and actually play it really well. So they do manage to get that that dragon there, which again really good for the side of G2. Nocturne again just going for the full clear. Seraphine again, get that Prio in mid, walk up. Even if you lose waves to a Castin mid, it's much more important for a Castin to get the XP that he needs. It's much more important for Castin to get his XP than it is for somebody like a Seraphine. You've got so much ultimate and utility in your kit that you're always going to be somewhat valuable throughout the game anyway. Obviously, a little bit of a waste on the Ornn ult, I will admit, because you can never really ult Gwen just because of how W works. But it didn't really matter too much because Nocturne then managed to get a follow-up ultimate on that as soon as she went to clear this ward. Now, the issue, the big mistake that top lane actually made here is the fact that she has a control ward here means that this ward is already turned off. It's already useless. So the fact that this this Nocturne is on the Herald and you're going to get the global announcement, Herald has been spawned, has been killed, you end up in a situation where walking up to this ward, which is off, you can see it's off here, as soon as you hit the ward, it actually turns back on. Now, this is one of the things that you always want to take note of, and you need to know when you are trying to climb, because or in competitive, because what you'll see often when you're in kind of lower ranks, and you even see this in like Diamond Masters, people will go for, say, Barons where there's wards from one team that are turned off with a control ward, and then you end up in a position where you're just turning the wards back on and giving them vision of the objective. So if there's a control ward down, then the ward is off, there's no need to go up. Again, this Gwen just kind of gives away a kill for no reason whatsoever, and when Ornn is itemizing into Force of Nature first, due to the fact that they're so heavy AP, one of the things with Lucian is a massive amount of his damage profile, even before the ADC changes, was magic damage, due to the fact that you usually pair it with something like a Nami, and also you have now things like Stormrazor, and things like Kraken Slayer as well, which do huge amounts of magic damage also. So, again, a little bit risky. This is where we see this kind of jungle playstyle, where your goal as both teams here, Big want to shut down the Zeri, and G2 want to accelerate the Zeri or keep her alive. So as Nocturne, considering all of the jungle has been cleared, there's no camps available, all you need to do as a jungler is just sit in this bottom half of the map and just kind of wait for anybody to walk up, and then as soon as they walk up, you can look for an engage. If the Poppy is there, you take the 3v3 and back away. If she's not there, then you get kills. So here, I do think Kaltis made a really big mistake though, because we do get a really big fight here. Nocturne manages to jump on and Nami dies, and this wave is really damaged. So it means that this is going to pull back in eventually anyway, because, you know, Lucian's going to need to kill it off. You need full HP casters in order to actually hold waves. So again, the issue is here we have the TP from Gwen actually came down, and they still continued fighting here, which is a really big mistake considering you've just got an advantage in a lane where usually you won't get advantages. So one thing that happens a lot in competitive is you need to get the small wins, and you need to just hold on to those small wins and those gold advantages. And like I said, dragons are worth about 1.2k gold each from the stats for your team. So even though this gold difference is in favor of Big, you would end up with an even gold advantage for the side of G2, which when you're in a game where you have a comp like this, Seraphine, Ornn, and Zeri, it's incredibly valuable. So overall, Kaltis does get a rotation into mid, kind of standard, especially when there's still a fight going on bot lane and she died. So again, really good use of tempo to get into mid lane, and again, Kassadin can start kind of clearing, but again, we have this situation where, again, push in, lock Kassadin at the tower, rotate the dragon, get the tower, get the dragon. So this, even though they don't have like a massive dragon comp, they want to be looking to fight around them. The fact that Big decided to go with a Kassadin just gives them so much prio here. And now you're in a situation where if you're ever kind of walking in to this kind of area, when you've got Seraphine ult, Ornn ult, like this gap here, like even coming down here, to be honest, or here, even if you're on the opposite side of these areas, they're all extremely tight, and this means that things like Seraphine ult, Ornn ult are incredibly high value. What you should be looking to do in this situation is you have to accept that you're late to the objective and you cannot get it whatsoever. So what you need to be doing here is literally just kind of backing away, let Kassadin push this wave in and get plates in mid. The fact that Kassadin didn't go for at least a free plate in mid here while they were doing the dragon is really, really rough, considering they're never ever going to get it, and they're just wasting time trying to rotate to an objective that A, they're too late for, and B, they'll never actually manage to get the fight in. You have to be on objectives first against Seraphine or Ornn, so both of them on the same comp is really, really scary. Again, props to G2, they know how to play this comp very, very well, which indicates A, they're all very dedicated, coaching staff is good, they've been having plenty of scrims, and they've really been putting time into this. This also obviously is evident of, you know, they've been playing together for quite a while. I think Lizzie, Tifa, Kaltis have won Worlds 2 or 3 times, I think. Actually, no, I think 4, man. I think it was only Jungle Change. I think the other 4 have actually won Worlds like 2 or 3 times. So that's really, really big. Just means that they've got that synergy, and one thing that you often see with teams is they'll rotate players so often that you never get a chance to build this massive synergy, and this is kind of where you can see G2 taking massive kind of leads from that. So again, it's now getting to the point where if you're big, you're kind of hoping on this Kassadin and Gwen to perform a miracle, especially because you've got the Trinity Force coming in. Now when it comes to Trinity and Sterak's, again, like I said, they amplify each other really, really hard. But again, like, we have a very similar situation, and this one of the mistakes a big make multiple times. We have another situation where we've got everybody prepared on Dragon. They're coming in these choke points, and we don't have Ornn ult available, but again we have Seraphine ult. So here Seraphine ult kind of holds on a little bit, but even this area is really good to fight in. We see Gwen's W comes down, which means now she's vulnerable to the Seraphine ultimate really, really hard. Unfortunately, this is one situation where the ult wasn't used too well. They were clumped up in a massive area here, which could have been used. But Seraphine manages to get the E on Lucian. He does have clarity though, so not clarity, cleanse. So you can't really do anything, and now you just end up in this really weird situation. Nocturne does kind of suicide for the dragon here, which isn't too bad. Again, they get the 3 stack, and now Big are constantly on that match point for the 4th one. They do manage to get out quite comfortably though, which is really, really good for them. And you know, they just take the win. So it's really, really good. So again, you see the Phage coming in from the Nocturne. Again, it's this overall kind of thing. So the thing is, Trinity Force increases your base AD by 4% per stack, up to a 20% increase in base AD. Now the reason why this is so important is because Sterak's then gives you you get bonus AD based on 50% of your base AD. So as you're getting more AD from the Trinity Force, you're then getting more AD from the Sterak's as well, which means that if you're opting into these really long fights, which Nocturne, Zeri, they really want to do, you end up with a massive amount of kind of value from this combo, and it's just so sleeper. Nobody seems to ever use it, and it's incredibly good. Like, I don't know why nobody ends up going into that. So Sheena, I really, really like the itemization that she is deciding to go into. Knowing these kind of interactions between items is really, really big, and just shows really good kind of itemizational knowledge. Here we see Kaltis going into the Runans. Again, really, really good item on the Zeri. And again, Kassadin, this is kind of one of the points where Kassadin is happy though, because he's like just farming a side lane. So Vixen, she does kind of go and try and get something on the tower, but again, Tifa can just instantly clear the wave quite easily with Seraphine. So not a bad response to the Kassadin, especially when the rest of your comp looks like this. Especially because again, you get that really big objective control, which is super, super good into the Kassadin, which Kassadin was R5, so this was Big's kind of attempt of this is what we want to play into the 5 chance that they're showing. So you really need to get more value out of this R5 slot if you're going to really win a game. Things like the Kassadin, the Veigar, the Vladimir, They all end up giving away way too much priority in mid lane that you can just look to very heavily go on objectives. So it does feel like G2 kind of, they're a lot more cohesive with the comp that they want to go with. But again, just looking to see if they can start Baron. Again, they're in this kind of situation where they're looking to start it to try and force them to come in this area. And if they come, then again, they have the Seraphine ult, they have the Ornn ult, really, really good. So they do back away from it. They don't want to risk too much, especially you've got this big scaling option inside a bot lane as well. You don't really need to risk whatsoever, really. So this is kind of the thing I was saying about earlier, is they're just looking to delay this Elder spike as much as possible. You really don't want to be flipping an Elder when you have something like a Zeri. So the fact that they now have the 3, they can give away 1 without really worrying too much. And just, you know, Big is never going to get to Elder in this game. It's going to be 20 minutes before they get, like, Elder available. So what you can do on G2 is you can play the game how you want to, and then when you get to your spikes, you can secure the soul, and then you can look to kind of look to end the game out. Again, another trying to force Baron. No reason why not. If they didn't have any vision, it would have been fine. Unfortunately, again, here, they did hit this ward, which turned it on. So this is the exact issue that we spoke about earlier. Again, it shows that this happens at all levels of play still, but they should have just left that ward. If they then back away from the Baron, then clear it on the way out. But overall, a little bit... no, it's not too great to do that. Again, ornaments are about 1,000 gold each. So again, you've got another 1k gold for the side of G2 coming in here, and the 3 dragons gives them 2 advantage. So even though you're looking at a 4k gold lead, you do have that. Right now they have 2, so they've got about the 2,400 gold advantage from them as well, and then they've got 2 ornaments coming in as well, another 2k gold. So even though there is a 4k gold lead in theory, the game is actually dead even at this point, which if the game is dead even, when you have Lucian Nami bot lane against Zeri Lulu, like, you are really, really in a good position. And again, this was a mistake though. There's no reason to burn all of these resources on a Kassadin, but the fight that ensued from here was very bad. Tifa is dead, but what that means is that when she respawns and uses a TP, Big need to really be careful of that. So I feel like they weren't timing summoners here because they didn't actually know that Tifa was going to TP. And also there's a control ward sat directly in the Baron pit right now that they just didn't clear away. So really kind of sloppy team fighting from the side of Big in this situation. Ornn just kind of jumping in, going absolutely nuts. And as you can see at the back here, Zeri is just free hitting this entire time. Nobody is touching her. And this is an issue that we got with the games earlier with... I can't remember what team it was. The Clash... where they really like Senna, and they really like playing Senna really far back and just doing a ton of damage from afar. So you see that kind of coming in this as well. So I think, to be honest, G2 probably goes through to grand finals. I think Big put up a really, really good fight though. This was a really close game. So I'm very excited to see what the next game comes into. But again, you've got Tifa coming in. She is full spent and full HP with a big shield as well. And again, Calcis can just jump off the wall. Nocturne comes in, disrupting on the Lucian. He is now completely out of the fight, and again, Calcis can just go nuts. So again, they're still really, really setting up for Calcis to just kind of go wild and do whatever she wants to do. But in general, I think the compositional difference was way too big here. Again, they're walking into a dragon with Seraphine ult, on ult available, and really good ult from the Seraphine here. Gets absolutely everyone, and this is the exact thing. I mean, we'll watch that again because it's just nuts. This is why you cannot walk onto objectives like crazy when you have when you're playing against the Seraphine on combo, because as you can see, the only one that Poppy managed to get was the Lulu, and now you've got this big, huge Seraphine ultimate comes in into the Ornn, access to the backline with the Nocturne. It's so hard for Big to play these fights at this stage of the game. This is where it's like kind of over, and even though Gwen can do a massive amount of damage, when her ultimate is down, she can't really get in range to use her Q for the massive amounts of true damage, unless it's on the Ornn, but Ornn has Radiant Virtue, so he just heals that up massively. So again, into Baron, and that's kind of game. Again, we get another really big ultimate coming through on the Ornn. They just look to keep forcing it at this point. As soon as they land one good Ornn ult, everybody just dies, and obviously as you can see, Caltis just going mad in the back line, killing off the Lucian. Gwen, you do see come in here, but this is a really good point for her to fight because her ultimate can hit multiple, but they managed to stay alive long enough, especially with the Lulu and Seraphine healing, and then Kaltis can just go nuts, jump over the wall, just do massive amounts of damage, really. So yeah, I mean, at this point as well, like, Kaltis is just so unbelievably strong on the Zeri that it's very hard for you to actually do all that much. Again, I don't know why they start tanking the tower here, very weird. But they get that last in here. But now they don't need Baron, they don't need anything. They just need to completely push out top and then look to siege on this base. And they are very, very happy with how this game goes. This was a really good use of the combination that they have, though. So as you can see here, Zeri just looking to poke out with W on the tower. Massive amounts of damage if it hits a structure first. Nocturne ult comes down, blinds them all, and now they can't see the Ornn ult or the Seraphine E into the R. Huge, gorgeous ultimate from Tifa yet again. Honestly, I mean, it's very easy this game to say this was a Kaltis show. Kaltis popped off, but the amount of work that Tifa put into this game was absolutely horrific for the side of Big. So again, this was this game. This was so close, so until it wasn't. So really looking forward to the next one, see what they do.